Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live chat with Harlequin Presents author Jennifer Hayward. Today we'll be discussing her latest release, The Italian's Deal for I Do, featuring the irresistible billionaire Rocco Mondelli and supermodel in hiding, Olivia Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat about the book, and I wanted to let everyone know that before we start the questions, we wanted to continue this wedding romance fever with a nice little giveaway. So after the chat, you can enter to win a bridal emergency kit from Advantage Bridal. It's stocked with over 30 necessities to survive your big day, including double-sided tape, the ladies always need that, clear nail polish, last-minute vows, they even have little spare wedding bands. So it's a really great little collection, and we'll be giving that away along with a copy of The Italian's Deal for I Do. So head over to BookTrib.com and enter to win after the chat. Very exciting stuff. And a big thank you to Advantage Bridal. So let's not delay any longer. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more about The Italian's Deal for I Do?
Absolutely. So, love writing this book so much. It's the first of 4 books in Harlequin Presents Society Wedding series, which run from April right through for 4 months now. And I wrote the first book. Michelle Smart, Tara Pammy, and Andy Brock, new writers for Harlequin Presents, have done the other 3, and they're absolutely fantastic. They follow the story of 4 bachelors who went to Columbia University in New York together, and who have very much a blood brother relationship, bachelors till we die kind of thing. And they're one's a chic, one's a fashion magnet, one is a financial whiz, another one's in real estate. So they have high-powered jobs. They've all kind of gone off to their respective parts of the world. And they're all going to come together again during these stories when their lives are being taken over by these romances that come into their lives. And they're just amazing. I love all 4 of them, and I think people are really going to enjoy them.
Yeah, I love them. They're all so different, and I love all the characters. It's such a wide range. What was it like working with all of the other authors? What was that like?
You know what? I was so lucky. All 3 of the other authors, we worked very closely together. We're all friends. We all brainstorm together. We all work together all the time. But our personalities just meshed so well together, and we came up with mottos for the guys, slogans. We had an email loop, and we just tossed everything back and forth, and really I think added a whole layer of complexity to the series where we're just building these worlds around them. So it was fantastic. I loved every minute of it.
And some of the authors you said are they brand new to Harlequin? Is it did you ever feel that you were kind of mentoring any of them? Sounds like an interesting kind of process.
No, I think we were all actually signed. I did. Andy Brock, one of the newer authors, I was an author mentor to her during Harlequin So You Think You Can Write a couple of years ago. So it was wonderful having her on board. And then Michelle and Tara and I were signed sort of in the same time frame. So it was nice to work together.
Yeah, that brings me to a question by Raven. Thanks, Raven. She says, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience winning the So You Think You Can Write contest?
Wow. What a roller coaster ride. I think the year that I won was the very first year for the social media component, where it was up to a public vote. So it was a huge roller coaster ride. The public chose the top 28, the editors chose the top 3, and then the public chose the winner. So at every juncture throughout the contest, I just decided I wasn't going to final, so I wouldn't get my expectations up. And then when I made top 28, I really started doing social media and getting the story out there. And it was incredible because people would pick up on the story and start, tweeting the editors at Harlequin saying, love this one. And it was just so amazing to see the response to the story. It was called The Divorce Party, the story that I won with. And just as every stage went, my heart just beat faster and faster. And by the end, I was a basket case. But it was incredible to win. I mean, with so many great stories, it was absolutely wonderful and an absolute roller coaster ride. But I wouldn't change 1 minute of it. I wouldn't.
Huh. I didn't know that was the first time that they implemented the social media poll. So it's just amazing, how authors promote on social media. Do you use social media a lot? Is that something that you're into with interacting with fans?
I do, and I love it. I have a background in public relations. That's what I was doing for the last 15 years before
Mm-hmm.
I am writing full time. So I was lucky because it kind of came pretty naturally to me. It was
Yeah.
fun to be doing it for myself for once and not for clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really helped me with So You Think You Can Write, because you really had to get the
Yeah.
word out to readers to vote.
Absolutely. Now, Sandra, she mentions your past career, and she says that she must have read your author bio. She's doing a little research. She says you worked alongside powerful, male CEOs, and she wants to know, how did this help you in writing and developing your characters?
Oh, wow, so much. Because part of my career was traveling with these CEOs and taking them, from um, media appointment to media appointment on media tours, and so you really get a sense into how these types of men think, how they
Right.
live. It's so fun to work alongside some of the
Mm-hmm.
men who run the most powerful companies in the world. A lot of my clients were in Silicon Valley, which,
Yeah.
obviously some of the big names come from there, and I loved working with them, and I was always surprised at how humble they were as well as powerful,
Hmm.
and they were just fun to work with. I just loved it. So I've taken a ton of my career and put it in these books. My second book is all about a PR person
Oh,
doing a big launch
awesome.
and an exquisite challenge, and so it's been hugely valuable to me for sure.
Hmm. Now, readers know that Rocco Mondelli is Italian. So did you have to research anything while writing this book? Anything about Italy, anything about the language?
Oh yeah. My Italian's not very good, so I actually have an Italian friend named Valentina, who's not only
Oh,
beautiful, but
great.
she's really great with the language. So she helped
Hmm.
me through writing the book, and then she went through the whole book for me afterwards and made
Oh,
sure that
wow.
that the Italian was, yeah, she's lovely. So needless to say, she
Yeah.
got a signed copy, and she's great. But I did a lot of research. She also helped me. The book is set in Milan, so she
Yeah.
helped me find some great spots. The book opens in a place called Navigli, which has some really fabulous cafes in Milan along the canal network there, and I just love that scene so much. And to me, there's so much atmosphere from in the book because of these scenes that she helped me with. So yeah, I did quite a bit of research and tapped my
Yeah.
network.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, what a great friend to help you. That's amazing. Now, and also the fashion capital, Milan, right? That's a great place.
Yeah, amazing.
Um, yeah, Raven wants to know, aside from, researching and getting some input from someone who knows Italian, how have your travels inspired any of your other writing? Is there anything that you've pulled from your own travel experiences?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I live to travel. That's just who I am. I just love it so much. So um, so many locales. Napa Valley was in my second book. I've been to Napa Valley. I love it.
Yeah.
Tuscany. I did a writing course in Tuscany in the middle of the mountains. And I
Oh, wow,
had, I
that's
think,
amazing.
yeah, my fourth book, which was incredible, by the way. My fourth
Hmm.
book, Changing Constantino's Game, has my heroine just heading back from Tuscany and going through London where she meets the hero. So I take my travels and put them in all my books. I've written, like I say,
Yeah.
I've written about Milan and I haven't been there, but most of the destinations I try to choose ones that I've been to.
Hmm.
Barbados, one of my favorite islands. That I like to use that in books. But yeah,
Fantastic.
just love to use those locations.
Now, are you a plotter or a pantser in terms of your writing style?
I am. I'm a product of both. I would say more on the plotting side. When I write books and I don't plot anything and I don't outline anything, I end up in the middle, floundering, and without a good story.
I
It's
hear
really
you.
not a good place. It's not a place I want to be.
Hmm.
So I loosely outline my books, so I know
Yeah.
every key turning point ahead of time. The book will often change from now to then when I'm finished. I wrote four endings for a book I wrote recently because it just wasn't right. So
Oh,
things
wow.
do change, but those key turning points I have to know, because I have to know my character arcs, and I have to know what they're going to learn during the book, how they're going to change. So, and I have to know kind of those key things that are going to make them change, but
Hmm.
also I have a lot of flexibility, and I do change things in the middle of the book, and I have to go back and kind of adjust
Yeah.
my outline. Absolutely. I mean, when you get into writing a book and those characters take over in your head, they
Yeah.
take you places. It's
Yeah.
just organic. It's they become people that live down the street from you, you know? So it's
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
happens.
Now, in terms of like character names, do you have any technique for choosing names? Rocco Mondelli is great.
I love it. I didn't actually choose that name. I wish I had, but that one, my editor, when we got the series, we were given the characters,
Oh, that's
so I
amazing.
didn't choose the name. But I
Nice.
love choosing names. You know, Ricardo and Louis were my first two in the divorce party, but yeah, names are hugely important. They say everything about a character.
Yeah.
Is my mentor Sharon Kendrick, who also writes for Harlequin Presents.
Hmm.
She is always so adamant. I took a course from her about how important a character's name is, because it really influences how a reader will look at them, and just
Yeah.
how they're perceived. So I think that it's more important than a lot of people think it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we have a question from Heather about what initially drew you to writing romance. And she says, if you could write a book in another genre, what would it be, and what would it be about? So it's two questions really.
I okay. So sorry. The first part was, oh, what drew me to romance? Um,
Hmm.
I have been reading romances since I was 14, so it's
Hmm.
such a organic thing for me. I just love them. They were my escapism. I hated my teenage years. I was miserable. Um,
Yeah.
just just the worst, you know, the most stressful, the worst. And I used to just go escape with a presents, and
Hmm.
it just took me off into this world, and I loved it. And I wrote my first presents when I was 19 and sent it off to
Wow.
London. Yeah, and was rejected, but I made it all the way through the slush pile to a senior editor at Presents there at the time, who said she liked my writing but not to pursue that particular story. So I didn't, and
Hmm.
sort of throughout the years as my career took over, I wrote a few partials and sent them in, and they were rejected, and I felt like I was kind of going backwards. And
Hmm.
then I had success before I won So You Think You Can Write with the Divorce Party. I had success with another manuscript that I had entered into a pitch competition that
Hmm.
Harlequin did, and it finaled, and it was sitting on my editor's desk when I won So You Think You Can Write.
Wow.
So I would say to people, you know, persist, because the love was always there for me.
Hmm.
I think it really happened for me when I started to go to conferences and take writing
Hmm.
courses and got very serious about the craft,
Right.
and really started to learn how a book is structured. And and one big thing was I kept writing 3 chapters and sending them off. But when you write 3 chapters, your characters are still very surfacey, and you
Hmm.
don't really know them that well. When you actually commit to writing a whole book, by the time you're finished, you know them
Yeah.
inside out, and that even changes your first 3 chapters. So that's when I started having success. Um,
Wow.
Second
What
part
a
of the
process.
question. Yeah. Second part of the question, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I definitely want
Hmm.
to write a single title book. And it's
Cool.
either going to be a small town um, kind of community where you have very interesting characters, and you write about all of them.
Hmm.
Or I really, really want to write a mystery, a suspense.
Yeah.
So those are the two. I have a huge desire to write both of them. And a family saga is another one. So I have a lot of ideas. I'm just trying to figure out which one I'm going to tackle. But
Wow.
yeah, I love writing presents, and it'll always be first in my heart. But yeah, for sure, I want to branch out at some point.
That's awesome. Now, do you have a favorite Harlequin author or series of yours?
Oh wow, I I have I have a few. Sarah Morgan, I think is just amazing. Um,
Yeah, we just
I
chatted with her. She's
I
great.
can't get enough of her. She's so
Hmm.
talented. Yeah, she's writing single title now, and she's just amazing. So
Hmm.
Sandra Martin was one of my absolute early favorites. Um, Michelle Reed, I love. She writes very dramatic, reunited romances between
Hmm.
husbands and wives that are just to die for. Um, Who are some of my other favorites? I loved Charlotte Lamb in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Kelly Hunter. Love
Hmm.
Kelly Hunter so much. Who writes or wrote for Harlequin's Kiss Line, is writing for Presents now, and she writes other stuff as well. But she's just phenomenal. Her humor and her quirkiness is amazing. So there's a ton. There's a ton of Harlequin writers that I love.
Yeah, also going back to what you were just saying about going to like conferences and stuff, I'm thinking like you have all these, Harlequin authors that you enjoy reading. What's it like going to the writers' conferences and meeting these people that you've kind of been reading for years? I'm sure it's a trip.
I love that you asked that question because um, it was so funny. This past year, my first year as a published author at the Romance Writers of America conference, where there's 2,000 romance writers that go to this big conference. It was in San Antonio,
Yeah.
and yeah, I got to meet some of the Presents writers that I have been reading for decades, and here we are, all in one of the writers' hotel rooms, sitting on a king size bed. I kid you not. I don't know how many of us there were on the king size bed, but and
Oh,
it
so
was so
cute.
surreal to me that I just had to laugh. You know what I mean? It's one of those
Mhm.
moments where you just can't actually believe it's happening. It's just so funny. And I ended up getting into a conversation with Michelle Condor, who writes for Presents, who's the most lovely person on the face of the earth, who lives in Australia, and we just hit it off. And it was so nice. And those are
Yeah.
friendships that don't stay there. You take them with you. And I've tapped, Lucy Monroe's another fabulous person I met there, and you
Mhm.
tap those friendships and you take them home with you, and they've been so wonderful to help me with my career when I've had questions. So it's so rewarding to do that. I urge everybody to go to conferences.
What are you going to in the near future? Any that are coming up?
Yeah, I can tell you my exciting news. So
Ooh.
today,
Yes,
or well,
please.
yesterday, it was announced that my book called The Magnate Manifesto, which came out
Mm-hmm.
last December, has been chosen as Romantic Times Magazine Harlequin Presents of the Year for 2014.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yay.
I'm so excited. So I'm going to Dallas in May to accept the award for that. And
Fantastic.
I'm like beyond excited, such an honor. And then later in July, I'm going to the Romance Writers of America again in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be there.
Awesome. Any book signings or anything else coming up?
I don't have any other than those at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Awesome. Well,
I
those are
have a lot of
huge
writing to
things to
do.
look forward to. Yeah, right. Lots of work to do. Now, we have something from Taylor. She says, Fresh fiction said about the Italians' deal for I Do. The chemistry is stunning. The moments they fall in love will leave tears in your eyes. I could not put the Italians' deal for I Do down. So she says, without revealing too much, can you describe in a few words that scene, that moment that they fall in love?
Oh my God, this book gets to me. There's, oh God, okay. I think the scene that I love the most, and I don't want to give the book away, but Olivia is
Right.
fighting some real demons from her past
Mm-hmm.
modeling career, and everything comes back to haunt her in New York City the night she goes back on the stage to
Mm-hmm.
become the face of Mondelli, which is Rocco Mondelli's fashion house.
Right.
And she's become the new face for the company because Rocco is going to help her become a fashion designer, which is what she really wants to do. But she has to spend this last year modeling. And the night that she goes back on the stage, she has a bit of a breakdown, and Rocco is there for her. And when she comes off the stage, her ex-lover is standing there backstage, and Rocco is standing beside him. And there's this moment where Rocco thinks that she's going to walk into his arms, her old lover's arms, and not his. And he wants to punch the wall. And he's so. And at that moment, I think he realizes how invested in her he is. And to me, that moment, I just died writing that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was. And she walks into his arms, and of course, there's a lot more complications after that. But to me, that moment was just like I just loved writing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, well, Bridget has a question that we ask almost every writer on here, and they usually say it's their most recent book. But she says, I know it's a bit like picking a favorite child, but which of your books would you say is the one that stuck with you the most?
Oh gosh. it's so hard because the divorce party, your debut novel is always going to be a special one for you, and that
Mm-hmm.
book has been phenomenally successful for me. So um, that book is just, it will always be special to me. It will always be my
Mm-hmm.
baby. Um,
Right.
and then I think the Magnus Manifesto, I took a lot of chances with that book. So, I have a former stripper as a heroine in it, and
That's awesome.
I took chances with it. But to me, that book is special. And then I know I'm really not answering the question properly, but and then the Italian Steel for I Do has such an incredible spirit to me between the two of them
Mm-hmm.
that's just me getting out of it, giving you one answer, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how I would answer it.
Yeah, I really like your heroines. I'm a big fan of contemporary romance. It's my favorite, and I just think it's so relatable, and I just like kind of off the cuff characters, so that was really cool to read.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Taylor wants to know about your book club. She says, "Can you give us the scoop on your book club?"
Yeah, it's the most amazing thing ever. It was started, we just realized the other night, 13 years ago. 13 years, we have been meeting every
Wow,
Wednesday, or the first Wednesday of every month.
that's
We all
dedication.
go to each other's houses and we cook,
Yeah. Mhm.
try and theme the meal to the book. We
Mhm.
choose the book for the month, and we read everything from, um, real pure literary fiction to biographies to
Right.
romances. We did one of my books one month. It was not my idea, but the girls wanted to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was funny. But and it's just incredible. Like they're from every walk of life, and we have been there for each other through divorces, through marriages, through children,
Wow.
through breakdowns, you name it. It's just the most incredible group of women. I can't. So the night I won So You Think You Can Write, there was just nobody other than my husband that I would have wanted to spend it with, because those girls, they ran a whole PR campaign for me around the book. So
Wow.
we drank 10 plus bottles of champagne. I think we drank one each.
Nice.
And yeah, it was just, so that's the type of group it is.
Mhm.
We're just like sisters. It's amazing. And I love that I read books that I wouldn't normally pick up. We read the biography of Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect, which called Loving Frank, which I never would have picked up, which
Interesting.
blew my mind. Bel Canto by Anne
Yeah,
Patchett is an
that's a great
incredible
one.
story,
Mhm.
that I never would have picked up. It's one of my all-time favorite books now. So I
Mhm.
love that about it. It gets me reading things that I wouldn't normally read, and I love reading out of genre when I'm writing,
Yeah.
because I think it brings some new, fresh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just creativity to my books.
Yeah. You could
Yeah.
literally write a book about you and your book club and all the things that you guys have gone through together.
I, one of these days, I feel like I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to change names, and I don't know. They might all kill me, but
It
it's
could be
that good.
amazing.
It really is.
So
Yeah.
you guys do like food and I'm sure wine pairings and all that fun stuff. That's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I love
And
it.
and we like good wine, so it's usually
Yeah.
it's pretty funny. Like it's funny. When I used to work in an office, I would go in after book club, and my team would just look at me and laugh and be like, "It was book club last night, wasn't it?" Because I'd have a headache and whatever, but it was all worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know about just like reading reviews. Do you ever read your reviews that people do, or do you kind of avoid hearing that?
I do. I do read them, and I appreciate them. Sometimes it's hard. I've been
Yeah.
really lucky because I've had good reviews, but I get bad reviews like everybody else, and
Mhm.
it's hard to read those ones. But
Right.
if they're constructive, if
Mhm.
they're not just one star and
It
nothing,
tells you
if
nothing.
they're
Yeah.
constructive and if somebody tells me what they hated about the book or whatever, then I love it, because
Exactly.
I can keep that in mind, and it's really important to me when I sit down to write my next book. Like they're my readers, so it's important for me. It's important, and I do read them. I know some authors who don't read any of them, and I totally understand that, because it
Mhm.
can really affect your day if you sit down and you read a terrible
Yeah.
review, and you're like, hey, I'm going to sit down and write my book now.
Yep. It can be
Yeah, but it's
motivation for sure.
Yeah, it's. I think it's important. I personally think it's important to know what readers think.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um,
Yeah.
so in this particular book, Louisa wants to know, which character do you relate to the most?
In this particular book, I I love Olivia and how vulnerable she is.
Hmm.
I relate to that. I haven't I haven't gone through the experience that she did.
Hmm.
She has panic attacks. But when I was a teenager, I was anorexic, and that I have that in the divorce party.
Hmm.
So I know what it's like to be really vulnerable and to be really struggling
Hmm.
with something that paralyzes you and doesn't allow you, to live a normal life. And Olivia is very
Right.
much like that in this book, and you really feel for her. I really feel like I've got a lot of feedback from
Yeah.
readers about that they really liked her because she struggled, but she's also not weak. She's strong. She's
Right.
fighting, which I think is important in a character, because I don't think I could ever write a character that is just weak, and I don't think anybody would want
Yeah.
to read that anyway. But
Hmm.
I love how strong she is, and how she struggles, and how she stands up to Rocco in this book
Hmm.
when it would be very easy to let him just walk all over you.
Yeah. Now you said that fans kind of reached out to you about her character. What's the most like heartfelt sort of email or letter that you've ever received from a fan? Does anything stick out to you?
Oh gosh, I had a letter from a lady in the U.S. who had written or read The Divorce Party, and she sent me a letter on foolscap, like written in
Wow.
pen, saying like every character in the book she wanted a story for, like every single minor character. She loved all of them. It was incredible. So that's amazing. I just got a letter this morning from a guy
Wow.
who, yeah, who's trying to write for Presents, and who is amazing, and who just will write me when he's reading things. And he
Hmm.
just sent the nicest note saying he just thought the Manifesto, Magnus Manifesto, was fantastic, and he was reading this book, this current book, The Italian Steerfire I Do, and said it was an
Hmm.
amazing start to the series. So it's things like that. You can't describe how that makes you want to sit down and write. It's so inspiring. It just makes my day. It really does.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, do people ever ask you for tips about kind of just writing tips? Taylor wants to know what would you tell someone who wants to get through writer's block?
Um, Writer's block. So I don't really think when you're serious about your writing, you can have writer's block.
Right.
I mean, you do, but you have to just sit down and keep writing. That's the only way to do it, is to sit down
Hmm.
and keep writing and keep going, and eventually you will work your head around it. Got to put your butt in the chair and write. But
Yeah.
I do have amazing critique partners. I would say get a critique partner that you can sit down and brainstorm things with, because that's one of the first things I do. My editor or my critique partner, I just sit down and brainstorm it out, and try and figure out a way out of it. One of the things I notice is when I have writer's block, or a story isn't working the way that I want it to work, something is actually wrong. It's not just that I don't feel like writing that day. It's
Right.
that something's wrong. I have to trace it back to a character is not acting according to who they are. They've
Hmm.
gone and done something that just doesn't, it isn't according to character, and then
Hmm.
that will throw a story off. Or yeah, just the motivation is off somewhere. That is usually what throws me off.
Right.
And yeah, and I've just got to figure out where I took a wrong turn. Really, is it's almost always the case for me.
Hmm. Absolutely. Now, when did you decide, like, what was the turning point when you decided that you actually wanted to actively write a book? You said it was at the age 19, right?
Yeah, it really was. It was that young. Um, and I never lost that dream ever. Whenever I had vacation or something, I would sit down and write a partial manuscript and send it in. Um,
Right.
and I did that, 3 or 4 times, but I was so busy. But actually, a turning point came in my career where about I guess about 4 years ago now, when I was working in PR and I was very burnt out. It's a
Hmm.
very fast paced career, as I'm sure you know. And I just got to the point where like 15 years later, I was just like exhausted, and I wanted to write so badly, and I cried my way through 2 Christmases at my mother's kitchen sink.
Oh, wow.
And I did, and I came back after that, and I went back to work, and I was answering a call from my boss at the CEO of our company at about 4:30 in the afternoon one afternoon, and I thought I was going to have to work all weekend again, and I thought I can't do this. I need to be writing, and I was literally, I went home to my husband and I said I have to quit my job, and my husband is a saint because he said quit your job, and I was the breadwinner of our family, and he was amazing. So I left, and I took one client. I kept one client that I loved, and I started to write. That was at the beginning of 2012. I wrote The Divorce Party between then and September, and I won So You Think You Can Write in November. So when I would say I seriously started to go to conferences and take courses. It took me about 2 or 3 years, let's say, to get published. It was The Divorce Party was my 3rd full manuscript that I actually completed.
Right. Wow, that's such a journey. It's so interesting to hear it. Now, how about what are you working on next? Can you kind of give us a little glimpse into that?
I'm so coming up after this series, I've wrote a duo called The Tenacious Tycoons, which is the first book is coming out in June, and I love it. It's about 2 automotive magnates. One brother who's very stiff and scary, and the second one who's a total playboy, and they're completely different. And they are running their family company after their father committed suicide. It's very, a tragic background for them. The first one's called Tempted by Her Billionaire Boss, and I love it because I have a heroine who just is so intent on being perfect, and her boss is the scary, stern guy who scares the pants off her the first night or the first day that she comes to work for him. And it's a really great. I love seeing it. She gets him put in handcuffs when he comes back to the office from business abroad because they've changed security companies and they don't know him, and the security walks in on them thinking he's trying to put the moves on her, and he's put in handcuffs and he's furious, and it's just the worst meeting ever for her and her boss. So that series is coming up next, and then I'm working on a really fun series that's going to come out in 2016, which with a bunch of the Harlequin authors. That's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. Great stuff to look forward to. And unfortunately, we're at the end of our chat, but I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us again. And you guys all need to go to BookTrib after the chat and enter to win a copy of The Italian Steal for I Do and the Bridal Emergency Kit from Advantage Bridal. Thank you so much. It was a great chat.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so nice to be here, and I love hearing from fans. So if you had a question that you didn't get answered today, just find me on social media.
Yeah. What's your Twitter handle? Let everybody know.
I'm Jen Hayward with 1 N. Jen Hayward _.
Awesome. So
and
tweet away, guys.
I think it's Jennifer Hayward Romance. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, find her on social media, guys, and thank you again so much. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.